How to get out of your own way? Do something. This crops up quite often. Start with something really, really small, but the point is do something. Pick up a phone, open a book, research some websites, talk to somebody, tell somebody your fears, do something. Success comes in cans. Banish the word can't. Always look for what you can get out of the situation. When I was exploring the idea of moving overseas with my son as a single mum, rather than focus on the things that had gone on that I didn't like, I said to myself, actually, yes, I am a single parent, which means I can pack up our life and move abroad in a way that I wouldn't have been able to had I still had my partner and all the things that came with that. It was actually, not as easy as it sounds, easy enough to sell the house, as she says, but I was in a situation where I could make those changes because I didn't have that many ties around me. Okay, so be very mindful of the language that you use and how you speak to yourself is another tip. And that goes along with this one. Sometimes we can spend so long looking at the door behind us that's shut that we don't actually see the opportunities that we have through the open door in front of us. Your future's yours. It's up to you what you make of it. Say goodbye to the past. Thank it. It's given you lots of experiences and helped to make you the person that you are. But you are now in control. You can open that door and walk through it into your future. And it's your future. Grab it. Other people. When I was in the process of moving abroad, my own stingers were being flung left, right, in front of me all the time. These reasons why I shouldn't do it came up. But one thing that featured very heavily in my mind at that time, and does now as well, is that other people do it. Other single mums had moved abroad. Other people, when we were moving back, I've given up a full-time job to start my own business. Other people start their own businesses, so why not me? It's a very motivating thought. Find examples of people who've done the same, because that can really help you. And use them to get inspired. Find people who really motivate you, whose life stories really say something to you. The athlete Kelly Holmes, I admire her greatly because it took her 20 years of competing at the highest level before she actually won her Olympic gold medals. She's an example of somebody who didn't give up, who was very good at what she did, but she did not give up. The internet is full of very inspiring stories, and if you ever have a down day and you begin to really doubt yourself and those stingers come out in full force, just have a little search around, and there's a name at the end of this presentation that I'd like you all to go home and Google, because he's a fantastic example. How much do you want it? If you are making your own changes in life, you want to switch careers, you want to downsize, you want to set up your own business, you want to lose weight, you want to give up smoking, how much do you really want it? Own it. You've got to get past this being in the situation where you've got so much pain, actually you can't stay there anymore. And once you get past that situation, you're ready to move on. While you're in your comfort zone and you can kind of get along where you are, there's not a lot of motivation there to move forward. Work out for you what motivates you. Are you somebody who moves away from something you don't want, or are you somebody who moves towards something that you do want? And when you understand what motivates you, you'll be able to put more of those motivators in place. Tell someone. If you're trying to make changes and you keep self-sabotaging, get somebody's help on board. Find somebody who can act as a support for you, somebody who will encourage you, who has your best interests at heart. Another way that's helpful is to find somebody that will hold you accountable for what it is that you're doing. somebody who won't let you wriggle off the hook, somebody who will say, actually, you said you'd do this and you haven't. Why not? Somebody will ask you why you aren't doing things. Somebody who will not only care about you and have your best interests at heart, but very subtly challenge you as well. And that's important. Choose your company wisely. If you are in the process of making changes, other people also can interpret those as being threatening, and their fight or flight reflex can kick in as well, and you may find them being quite negative and aggressive towards your ideas. And if you do meet that, try and avoid those sorts of people. Instead, surround yourself with people that reflect your new mindset, people that actually want the same things that you do. So for example, if you are wanting to start up your own business, the ideal is find people like yourselves that are in the process of starting up a small business, and surround yourselves with them instead, because you'll get a tremendous source of inspiration and support, and you'll get rid of all that negativity which can drag you down and sharpen the points on those stingers, so that you've not only got yours there, but you've got everybody else's in front of you, and that can be really difficult. Understand your fears. Understand exactly what it is that you're frightened of. I used to have a recurring nightmare where I would be standing on a stage. I used to do lots of amateur dramatics, where I'd be standing on a stage, I'd open my mouth and nothing would come out because I hadn't learnt my lines. And I learnt that for me, that was a fear of being unprepared. And I know now that one of my fears is not being prepared. And I've learned that through, unfortunately, quite a few times when I haven't always been as well prepared. Once you understand what you're actually scared of, you can then put things in place to address those fears. So my fear of being unprepared is to make sure that I know exactly what I'm talking about, that my PowerPoint slides work, that my notes are here beside me, I've got a glass of water in case I cough, all of those things. But unless you know what exactly it is you're frightened of, you can't address it and you can't do anything about it. And you have to be specific, okay? Because there will be some things that actually you can pinpoint very, very accurately and be able to do something about. Do this again. Do something. Are you going to be like this little chap here and sit on the sidelines of your life and watch other people do the things that perhaps you've always wanted to do? Can't emphasise this enough. Do something. Take a small action, however tiny it is. All it needs is one tiny small step. And once you've done that one, you can take a second one. Get excited. If you want to make some changes in your life, own them. They need to get your juices flowing. It's got to be something you feel really, really passionately about. And if you don't feel passionately enough about it, then you are going to find those stingers thrown in your path left, right and centre. Because if you don't feel passionately about it, it's not going to work for you. Visualise it. There are several ways that you can do this, and the power of visualisation shouldn't be underestimated. Depending on your different learning styles, you might want to create a vision board of images that really reflect where it is exactly you want to be and what you want to have. You may want to draw or paint it. I remember when we were moving abroad, my son drew a lovely picture of the house he thought we were going to be living in, and he wasn't far off, I have to say, and I've still got it. If you're not a particularly visual person, recording it, a detailed exploration, an explanation of where it is that you want to be. You do it in the present tense, but you can play that back to yourself. If you like writing, you can write, get a lovely journal and write a really detailed visual description of exactly where it is you want to be. Find a way that suits you and make it work for you, but you've got to be able to picture where it is that you want to be. Own it and feel the passion for it. Make it yours. Set yourself some goals. Goal setting is important for a couple of reasons. One is called your RAS, your reticular activating system, and that's a big filter in your brain that gets rid of 99% of the information that we're bombarded with daily and helps you only capture and remember the really important things. For example, if you want to buy a new car, say for example you want to buy a Mini, suddenly everywhere you go you will see Minis, and you will have seen them all other times and other sorts of cars, but your RAS has kicked in, and because it knows that Mini's on your mind, it's filtering things that are pertinent to you at that time. So by setting yourself some goals, you're setting up your RAS to look for opportunities to achieve those. So for example, if you are looking to set up your own business or attend networking events, suddenly everywhere you look, you'll notice those opportunities start sticking out at you more than they would normally. People talk a lot about SMART goals. This is a mnemonic I particularly like by a lady called Carol Wilson, who's a coach, and it's called EXACT. And I like these because they're very positively framed. Your goals ought to be explicit, so they ought to be very succinct and of one focus. Nice and short, something you can utter in one breath, so that it's easy for you to remember without actually having to have it written down somewhere, so you can repeat it to yourself, or easy enough to put on a post-it note and stick it round. They've got to be exciting, like I said earlier. You've got to feel the passion for what you want. They've got to be positively framed and something that really inspires you, because without that emotion behind it, then those stingers are going to fall in your path left, right and centre. It's got to be accessible. You've got to measure the outcome. You've got to know not only where you're going, but when you've got there, and how are you going to know when you've got there. And the only reason you'll be able to do that is when it's accessible. It's got to be challenging, so it's got to be something that perhaps takes you out of your comfort zone, challenges you a little bit, like having an accountability partner to ask you why haven't you done this? You've said you'll do that. And time framed. They say, psychologists will say that it takes about 6 weeks to lose one negative habit and another 6 weeks to ingrain a different habit. So you're talking about a 3-month period if you want to change learned behaviours. And the way that you do that is you're getting rid of neural pathways in your brain. If you repeat a habit time after time, your brain remembers that pattern. It takes about 6 weeks for it to unlearn it, and another 6 weeks to relearn the new habits, build new neural pathways. So you're talking about 3 months plus. Any longer than about 6 months, and your brain doesn't really see it as a goal. It's more like a wish, something that you quite like to do, but you've got nothing set in stone for it. Said it before and I'll say it again. Do something, even if it's to swear and stick 2 proverbial fingers up to the universe, get angry, do something. And nothing will happen unless you are actually prepared to do something about it. Right, I love this quote, and this is what I'm going to end with. Your opponent in the end is never the person on the other side of the net. Your opponent is yourself. All of these 20 tips I've shared with you are things that you can do to help yourself get out of your own way, get the stingers out of the path and enable you to move your life forward. There's a name there, Nick Vujicic. If you want to go home and Google him, he's a very remarkable young man. I won't say any more about him than that, but he's a wonderful example of somebody who's overcome the most tremendous set of circumstances in his life to do some really remarkable things. Okay, thank you.